Thanks, Helen. Yeah, as Helen said, we're going to just split the talk into two parts. So we'll talk about the Chilli Thrip, and then we'll move on to Jake will talk about the entomatic. So the Chilli Thrip is quite a large outbreak situation in Western Australia the last 3 years, and we've done a fair bit of work with different predators, so we'll cover a little bit of that, a little bit on the type of chemicals too that we've sort of been trying to use over that period. Just so people probably know, but just so you understand, Western Australia is a Perth, where the Chilli Thrips is a major issue, is a Mediterranean climate. We get extremely hot, dry summers. Basically, it doesn't rain from October through to June. So it's, and we'll learn more about how the Chilli Thrips respond at different times of the year in Western Australia. But we have very low humidity in summertime. The Chilli Thrip basically situation is that it has been in Western Australia for over 20 years, but it wasn't really till about 2020 that people in the home gardens in Perth started seeing all their rose heads not forming properly, and basically all the new growth was stunted. So this was a surprise. No one really knew what it was, and as it went on the following seasons, we started to see the effect on berry crops. Firstly was blackberries. Blackberries were extensively damaged, like a hotspot like broadmite does in blackberry crops. This then spread to second-year strawberry crops, affecting first-year crops, and then lately it's affecting blueberries in a very large way, and also now raspberries. So probably when we first saw it 3-4 years ago, we thought it potentially was only going to affect blackberries, but as each season's gone on, the pressure and the spread of the Chilli Thrip through Perth Metropolitan has increased rapidly. In many ways, we think it's because they've got established and they're obviously pupating and re-emerging in those, so I guess, perennial crops like raspberries and blueberries. The life cycle of the Chilli Thrip is that it will lay its egg into the leaf tissue, a larvae will be produced, and it will pupate either in the ground or in leaf matter underneath. So we obviously find in the summer months it has a very rapid cycle, and it's a bit surprising, and we don't really know why, but we find that in Perth in around end of February, the population explodes. It doesn't make a lot of sense to us because we don't have rain from September onwards, so we go through a very dry, hot period through December, January, and they just explode in mid-February when there's been nothing really alive in the surrounds for many, many months. If you haven't seen it, these are the damage symptoms that you'll see in blueberries. So you can see that they'll get into the growing shoots, they'll cause that browning and basically stunt the plant, and you'll see the damage on the older leaves. You can start to see it gets more severe. The photo of the hand holding the leaf is quite common, and you'll see it looks a little bit like you've burnt the plant with some phytotoxic spray. With strawberries, it's similar. One symptom that's probably stands out is that the stem of the leaves, instead of being that nice green, they'll start to go a very dark colour, and that's probably a good early symptom. Even without being able to see the Chilli Thrip, you'll see that the stems will go that brown colour. As you can see, that's even more severe here. So we find when the growers cut back their second-year plants around March in Western Australia, it's when the infestation really takes over, because you've cut the plants back, and within a week, 10 days, you've got that new growth coming through, and the Chilli Thrips attack it massively. So without any treatment, the plants will probably be about an eighth of the size of what they should be after about 3 or 4 weeks of cutting back, and that's from the Chilli Thrip. So they've obviously stayed in the overwintering plants over summer, and then they attack that new growth straight away. So it's not just this. There's two videos here. These are some capsicum fruits in the Perth Metropolitan. It sort of shows you some of the lines that they'll do to the fruit and the scraping, but also if the videos are good enough, we'll show you the activity of the thrips just crawling all over it. Something that really stands out about this thrip that we don't see with any other thrip species that we deal with, a lot of thrips will like to go into the flowers, under the calyx of the fruit. These thrips don't particularly do that. They're very much leaf feeders, tip feeders, and you'll find in the middle of summer at 40 degrees, if you've got a rose head or a capsicum like that, they'll be running around the middle of the day all over the top of the fruit. So most other thrips we deal with will be trying to find a hiding spot, but these chili thrips don't. These are some more symptoms that you'll see in capsicum crops, all pretty severe. If you've dealt with capsicums and seen broad mite, it does look a little bit similar to broad mite damage, but these are all from chili thrips. So the next slide, we'll move into raspberries, and probably it was the one berry crop we thought that wasn't affected up till probably last season. We thought, oh, well, they're in there, but they don't do any damage. But after looking at the growth, the height of the raspberry crops from previous 3 or 4 years, we noticed that the actual height of the plant was probably about 20-30% shorter than it had been in previous years. So what we started to observe is that you can see up the stem, there's multiple changes in direction of the main stems, and that's if you look closely or when you're in the field, you can see that there's feeding marks from the chili thrip on every change of direction in the raspberry plant. So the crop's still produced, but I'm sure it's affecting the overall yield of the plant. So we don't see so much damage to raspberry fruit. Blackberries, we see a lot of damage. We even see that 4 weeks from harvest, if you've got high chili thrips, you control it. 4 weeks later, you're still getting dehydrated blackberry fruit 4 weeks after you've controlled it. So there's a lag effect in the blackberries. The raspberries, so far, the fruit doesn't seem to be too affected, but definitely the growth, and blueberries and strawberries are all affected on the fruit quality. So over the last 3 years, growers working with us, and we've tried multiple chemicals. Some growers are spraying every 5 to 7 days. So it's quite, I guess, upsetting for us in a sense that some crops like blueberries would never get sprayed ever, for insecticides in Perth. And a lot of these crops now are sprayed on 4 to 5 day rotations, trying to control it. So everything from Vertimex to Maldisons and etc. Are really having no real effect. So some of the work that we've done, we've tried multiple different predators, Aureus and Cucumis work well in strawberries, but the issue we have in blueberries especially is the establishment is not overly effective for most predators. So this predator here, vespiformis, we call it Frankie. It's an ant mimicking thrip, so it's a predatory thrip that will feed on thrips on the leaves. Okay, so it normally suits subtropical, tropical environments. And it's found in many parts of Australia. Unfortunately, it's not in Tasmania, and they won't allow us to bring it in at this stage until I get chili thrips. But so we've been rearing Frankie for probably 3 years, and it took a little bit of effort, but we've been able to get it up to quite good commercial levels. They're a pretty interesting little insect if you like insects. You can see that the first photo there, the smaller one, is a little hatchling, and then they go to a red colour when they're larvae, and the bottom one is pupating, and then the adult looks like an ant, and it mimics an ant in its description. So they can kill up to 20 juvenile thrips or 10 adult thrips per day, and they'll mainly hunt around on the leaves and the stems of the plants. So what we've done is we've done different trials in blueberries at different times of the year, different release rates. I'm just going to, don't have a heap of time, but just to shoot through. Basically, we've done it on three locations throughout Perth. This one here is a really good example. Is we released them in autumn last year, and obviously they're unheated tunnels, and we got through to winter, and they were still established, but they weren't really building up. But when we got to August, September, the population exploded, and the photo on the left here is where we had the trial with the Frankie. So basically they were able to build up and control the chili thrip. The picture on the right is where we had no Frankie, and it was actually a chemical application. So it was a major difference. It was, I guess, a surprise for us to see the effect of what the Frankie could do, because as I said before, we've never really found many beneficials to really thrive in blueberries. Now, just so you understand that this is extreme chili thrip pressure, you're probably looking at, you could have between 50 to 500 chili thrips per plant. So there's a very high food source, so that obviously has worked really well with the Frankie to build their numbers and keep them in the blueberry crops. Yeah, so this is just another example of different stages of the trial. Obviously, on the left is where the Frankie were able to establish and control the Chilli Thrips, and the plants have recovered and grown properly. And on the right is showing where we haven't had the Frankie in there. Probably some of the main things to sort of look at is obviously probably winter production it won't stop the Frankie, but it will stop them building. And in no way do I say you shouldn't have the Frankie in the winter time. You just be aware that you're going to have lower development in the winter, but you have them there so that they can build up into the springtime. And probably in the north, if you ever get Chilli Thrip in the eastern part of Australia, obviously it's warmer in the New South Wales and Queensland, so it'd be different than Perth. It can be quite cold in winter. And yeah, as mentioned, they thrive on a very high level of food source, and that's the Chilli Thrip, so they enjoyed that. Other things that we're looking to do is put banker systems in there, so alyssum, those other things that will hold the Frankie. So we know pruning back blueberries is quite a common thing, but it takes most of the leaf out of there. So what we did in the trial area, if I can go back, is the one on the left. Sorry, I'll go back one more. Yeah, so the one on the left, what they did is when they pruned back in, I believe, November, early December, we asked the grower if they could leave one really small shoot on the plant, and that was sufficient enough to hold the Frankie so that they could stay on the plant, and when the plant's reshot, you had enough Frankie to move across to the new shoots that were growing. So yeah, I think that's probably going to be very important going forward, to try and hold the Frankie in the system with the heavy pruning and blueberries. The other thing too that we weren't very confident about, but I think we're nearly there, is when we finished in the spring, we obviously have probably an average maximum of 35 degrees in Perth, so there's a lot of days over 40. Being a subtropical predator, we're unsure if it would maintain over the summer, but up till last week, and I think we're only a couple of weeks away from the weather cooling, they're still there in good numbers. So it gives us a lot of confidence that if we can build the Frankie from the winter into spring, cut them back, leave a bit of a shoot there, we can maintain them over the hot summer. So yeah, I don't think we're 100% there yet, but it gives us a bit of promise that the insecticides we're using, it's just not sustainable. The effect we got 3 years ago, we're not seeing now. Products like Somotis have an effect, but in 4 weeks later, they're back just as angry as they were 4 weeks. And we're probably finding with that product, it's could anywhere from a 6 to 10 week residual for predators. So we can knock them down, but we've got a period of 6 weeks where we've got no control in the system. So yeah, we'll keep working on this, and yeah, we'll keep passing information on. So if I could ask Jake to come up, and he'll talk about entomatic, and then if anyone's got any questions about the Chilli Thrip program or the entomatic, please ask. Yep.
Yeah, I won't spend too much time on this because most people might have already seen the video. Is that the right clicker? At our stand, but this is a new method of releasing biologicals into crops. The entomatic, this format is specifically for tabletop berries, like strawberries on tabletops, raspberries, blackberries in rows. So how does it work? There's a hopper. Basically, you need to attach this to your tractor. There's a hopper where you put the bugs in the mix, so predatory mites in vermiculite or a similar material goes into the hopper. It's fed with air, so the air pushes them through these tubes, and then they drop out. You can adjust it how frequently you want them to drop through your crop. There's a little video here, if you haven't seen it yet. This is some haygrove tunnels in the UK. So we've got some of these entomatic machines in Australia now, so we've been trialling them in Western Australia ourselves to see if they're going to suit our conditions. Obviously this farm's nice and flat, you can see here, so we haven't really had the opportunity to try them in, very steep farms, or I know often you get big ruts in the walkways between the tabletops, so these are things that we're going to continue to try and see how they work out. You can see the boom comes through. It's much like your sprayer, so you've got a little pipe that comes down on each tabletop and drops as it goes along. And you can adjust these for your setup. So if you've got single rows and you've got 6 gutters, you can basically adjust it how you want it. There's a little control module that sits on the cab there of the tractor. You fill it up with the bugs and off you go. So yeah, obviously the idea is to reduce labour costs, make it more efficient and also more even distribution. Obviously when you've got people putting out the bugs by hand, you know, there's a tendency to, you might go a bit too heavy at the start of the row when you see you're starting to run out in the canister, so you end up going a little bit lighter, so you don't get as even distribution all the time. Yeah, so hopefully you have less hot spots because you've got predators evenly through the crop. We do application with drones in a lot of field-grown strawberries, but as we know, most people are moving to tabletops, which makes it more difficult to use drones because they can drop a lot of the material on the ground. Less affected by weather. You don't really need anybody with training. Basically, a tractor or spray operator can do it. Yeah, and we've actually tried with aureus as well. So it's designed for predatory mites, but we have tried putting the aureus through, and there's very little mortality with the aureus, so it could be very efficient for growers. There's just a little video at the end showing the attachment for raspberries. So the same machine can be set up to do raspberries or blackberries. And that's about it. Any questions for Lachlan about the Chilli Thrips or the entomatic?
Thanks, guys. That was really interesting. So you talked about alyssum for maintaining the Frankie. So is that because the alyssum has a population of western flower flips? They're feeding on that. What's the mechanism there that helps maintain them? Yeah, no, you're right. It may not just be western. It could be other thrips out there too, and it's pretty hardy. Yeah. So Adam, one of our colleagues in Queensland, he actually found the vespiformis growing in basil. Yeah. So basil could be an option too, but basil's a bit harder to maintain all year round, so it needs a bit more care than the alyssum. But yeah, it does have thrips in there, and it's a good source, so that they can breed on that. Yep. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Just a quick question about the sprays. For example, if you already have Frankie releasing blueberries, and you know some growers already need to spray something for disease spray, especially for the rust, some preventive spray. Do we know how it's going resistance in the chemicals and yeah, what is allowed to spray and what is
Yeah, we're learning more and more about the Frankie of what it affects, but I'd probably say, you know, the fungicides that are safe to be used on your general predators, aureus, those sort of things, would be pretty similar in the effect. Yeah, so most of the things, your coppers and all those things for the rust should be fairly safe on the Frankie. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Yep. Yep.
We do have time for another question. If anyone's got a question.
Cool.
No, that's all good. These guys do have a stand out there. You've probably already seen it. Hopefully you've seen it. So feel free to pop in there, ask any questions. It's a really awesome machine that I've seen myself. So really glad that you guys brought that over, and hopefully that it can have more uptake in industry.
Yep.
Thank you very much,
Cool.
guys.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.